Hello everyone! It was a very eventful day one at the St. Louis Rapid tournament. Garry Kasparov is undefeated and, well, he played all three games quite admirably. In the first game against Sergei Karjakin, he had a better position, and at one moment when he should have played e4, he went into a deep think and decided to go for e3, and, well, the game kind of went into a draw. But he played it extremely well. And the second game against Hikaru Nakamura with the black pieces, he was definitely better in the opening, and well, if he just went for some more aggressive ideas, maybe the result would be different. But after day one, Garry Kasparov said that his main goal in day one was to play good chess and not lose any games, because if he were to lose 3 games on day one, then he probably would have played badly in the entire tournament. But he ended all of his 3 games in a draw, and the third game against Dominguez was also a pretty quick draw. But the game I want to show you is the game against Hikaru Nakamura. So Nakamura is white and Kasparov is black. Let's see the game. Naka goes d4, we have knight f6 by Kasparov, c4, g6, knight to c3, and we have d5, the Gruenfeld defense. Bishop to g5. And Kasparov plays bishop to g7, and here Nakamura plays a sneaky variation. He plays bishop captures on f6, bishop captures on f6, and now c captures on d5, kind of winning a pawn here. So Kasparov plays c6, we have e4, and Kasparov castles. We have knight to f3, now Kasparov captures back, c captures on d5, and Naka doesn't capture the pawn, of course he plays e5, now kicking the bishop. Bishop to g7, and now queen to d2. And Kasparov plays knight to c6. We have bishop to b5, and bishop to g4 by Kasparov. And, well, this knight is attacked. White kind of wants to castle, and that's not really going to happen, because if he castles, then simply bishop captures knight on f3. And moving the queen one more move just to protect the knight isn't something Nakamura wants. So he decides to play knight back to g1 to prepare to go to e2. And now Kasparov plays f6, and black is better here. The white king is still in the center, and Kasparov is threatening to open up the position. We have h3 by Nakamura, bishop to a6, and now e captures on f6. And Kasparov recaptures with the rook. Rook captures on f6 and sets up a trap. And if Nakamura would try to play something like knight to f3 here, then this would be, well, instantly losing. If knight to f3, then simply rook captures on f3. And after g captures on f3, then knight captures on d4. Now threatening to capture this f3 pawn with a fork on the king and queen. Also threatening knight c2 if the queen moves to a silly square, and well, also adding pressure to this bishop on b5. So after rook to f6, Nakamura of course saw this, and he played bishop captures on c6. We have bishop b captures on c6, and now knight g to e2. And if Nakamura were to play knight to f3 in this position, Kasparov would again capture this knight with the rook. Rook captures on f3, and after g captures on f3, this is a pretty bad position for white, as he can't really go kingside, well, because it's pretty much broken. This bishop is ready to capture on h3, and there's really no point in going queenside. This strong bishop is on g7, rook is ready to go to b8. So Nakamura, of course, saw this as well. So after b captures on c6, Nakamura played knight to e2, now preparing to castle. And Kasparov instantly plays queen to d6, activating the queen. Nakamura castles, and we have rook a to f8, now doubling up on the f-file. And this is a beautiful position for black. It's move 16, and well, black is better. Nakamura plays rook a to e1. And here Kasparov went into a 2-minute think, and he played bishop to c8, which is the strongest move recommended by the engines. It prepares e5, and e5 is a very important move because, well, Nakamura wants to play knight a4 to c5. And after e5, this would compromise the knight's position on c5. And also there is a threat of bishop to a6, pinning this knight and also attacking this rook on f1. So Nakamura plays knight to a4, and Kasparov plays e5 immediately. So Nakamura captures, d captures on e5, queen captures on e5, and now Nakamura plays b4, creating once more an outpost on c5 for the knight. And well, this is a very useful move, as it kind of prevents bishop to a6 immediately. So we have rook to e6 by Kasparov, and Nakamura plays knight to c5. And okay, the knight can't, the rook can't really go to f6, because if this knight stays on c5, then bishop to a6 is never a possibility, because this knight would be eyeing this d7 square. So Kasparov plays rook to e8. We have knight to b3 and queen to b2. And in this position, actually, Kasparov went into a really deep think. I think it was a 10-minute think, and this is a lot of time to spend for a rapid game. But he couldn't find any serious continuation for black here. The engine does give queen to d6, but also queen to b2 is also a move suggested by the engine. So pretty much Kasparov played it okay. So queen to b2, queen captures on b2, and bishop captures on b2. And this is a good decision. Because, well, as you can see, it's an open board, and Kasparov has the two bishops against two knights, so not a bad thing. We have knight e to d4 by Nakamura, and Kasparov exchanges one set of rooks. Rook captures on e1, rook captures on e1, and bishop to d7, now defending this pawn. We have rook to e2, bishop to c3, and rook to c2. Kasparov captures on b4, and Nakamura captures on c6. Now attacking this bishop here on b4, and also the pawn on a7. But Kasparov doesn't go to protect the pawn. He plays bishop to d6, gives up a pawn, because he does have the bishop pair, and this is compensation enough, and he does have this passed central pawn. We have rook to e8, g4 by Nakamura, h5, f3, rook to e1 check, king to g2, king to f7, improving the position, knight to c6, we have h4 now, and before this h4 move, Kasparov was under a minute on the clock here, and every move Kasparov plays now is in blitz or bullet mode. So he goes h4, knight c to d4, we have rook to d1, Nakamura offers to exchange rooks, rook captures on d2, knight captures on d2, and the king to f6, king to f2, and now king to e5. And if you look at this position, well, white is up a pawn, but having the two bishops it should be compensation enough. King to e3, Kasparov plays g5, and here Nakamura finds a tricky move. He plays f4, sacrificing a pawn temporarily to exchange one of Kasparov's bishops. We have g captures on f4 with check, king to d3, and now Kasparov plays bishop to e7. We have knight to f3 check, king to d6, and now knight to f5 check, forking the king and bishop, and well, Kasparov has to decide which bishop to give up. So he plays this bishop on d7 captures on f5. We have g captures on f5 and king to c5. And now this is a very dangerous passed a pawn for Nakamura, so Kasparov has to be careful. We have knight to d4, king to d6, a4, bishop to d8, stopping this pawn to going to a5, knight to e6, attacking the bishop, and well, this bishop had to go here to stop pawn a5, but now knight to e6 attacks the bishop and this pawn on f4 as well, and the pawn cannot be defended. So we have bishop to b6 and knight captures on f4, and Nakamura is up a pawn again. So we have king to e5. Nakamura plays the strongest move. He plays f6. We have a bishop to c5, and now f7. This pawn has to be stopped. Kasparov plays king to f6, and now knight captures on d5 with check, king captures on f7, and Nakamura plays king to e4. And this is probably where Nakamura went wrong, as this position was winning, but the idea to win was actually to go and help this a pawn promote, but Nakamura went kingside. So king to e6, knight to f4 check, king to d6, we have knight to g3 attacking the pawn, bishop to f2, and well, Nakamura will win this pawn. It's impossible to defend it once the king gets closer. King to f2, we have bishop to g3, king to g4, king to c5, and now knight captures. So the bishop has to move to f2. We have knight to f5, king to b4. It's very important to pick up this passed pawn. We have knight to g3, and now Kasparov captures. And well, it doesn't really matter what white plays here. This is it's impossible to win this position because This is why Nakamura should have went queenside instead of kingside, because here the promotion square is a dark square, and Kasparov has a dark squared bishop. And if he went queenside, then the pawn would be threatening to promote on a light square, and this would be okay for, I mean, unstoppable for white. So h4 by Nakamura, king b5, h5, bishop to e3, knight to e4, king to c6, knight to g5, king to d7, h6, king to e7, h7, and now bishop to d4, and there is no way for this pawn ever to promote. But Nakamura gives it a couple of tries. You know, maybe he will be able to trick Kasparov, as he was under a minute for the last 30 moves. We have king to f5, bishop to a1, king to g6, and bishop to b2, knight to f7, bishop to a1, knight to h6, and now bishop to h8. This is a very important move. Knight to g4, and bishop back to a1. Knight to e3, bishop back to h8, knight to d5, king to e6, knight to f4, king to e7, knight to h3, king to e6, knight to g5, king to e7. And as long as Kasparov's king protects f7 and this bishop protects g7, there's no way for white to break through, and well, it's exactly what happens. We have knight to f7, bishop to a1, and in this position, well, Nakamura seemed very angry, and he went into a think of about 3 minutes. And here is where Nakamura actually plays an illegal move. He plays h8 queen, but he didn't push the pawn on h8 and then drop a queen on h8. He just you know, played it like he was playing in a park or a bar. He just picked up the queen and placed it on h8 and then removed the pawn, which is considered to be an illegal move, and this would be losing a game if it was a blitz game. I'm not sure if the same rule applies for a rapid game. But even if it does, I'm sure Kasparov wouldn't call the arbiter for this. So anyway, pawn to h8 queen, and bishop captures on h8, and Nakamura was already ready to capture the bishop, but Kasparov, shook his hand, and they agreed to a draw. So yeah, a fantastic first day by Garry Kasparov, and he is still undefeated after day 1. So we'll see how day 2 goes. He said that this was, did very much for his confidence, as he drew against Sergei Karyakin, who was the 2016 Rapid champion and also the World Championship candidate, and well, he drew a Rapid game against the Bullet Demon himself, and against the Dominguez as well, who is a pretty strong player too, and an active one as well. So yeah, definitely a good showing by Garry Kasparov. That's it. I do hope you enjoyed it, and as usual, you can check 2 of my previous videos here. Well, thank you for watching, and I'll see you soon, hopefully today.